your girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time. Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.
Fasten your seatbelts.
Sound the alarm. Incarceration Music and Tattoo Festival is back with Shinedown, Godsmack, Breaking Benjamin, Hailstorm, The Offspring, Chevelle, Bad Omens, Chimaira, and so many more. Report to historic Ohio State Reformatory this July 19th through 21st. 3 days of non-stop rock, tattoos, Blood Prison, Haunted House, and more. Passes on sale now at incarceration.com.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. And real quick housekeeping note, if you are watching us on YouTube or Rumble or BitChute or Odyssey, please hit that follow and subscribe button. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, Google, whatever podcast platform you utilize, please hit that follow and subscribe button so we can continue to bring you conversations like the one I'm bringing you today. It's always great to have a lot of the guests I have on here, musicians, patriots, just all around like-minded people with great stories. But I really enjoy going down memory lane with old friends of mine. So happy to have on my good friend, Jim LaMarca, the band Chimaira. What's going on, Jim?
What's up? How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, man. We're good. We're good now. You sound great.
Sound better.
Yeah. But yeah, Jim, usually when I have somebody on for the first time, I like to go down memory lane and get a quick background. So you remember what you originally wanted to be when you grew up?
Yeah, I wanted to be a baseball player, professional baseball player. I wanted to play baseball, and my dream was to play baseball. And, as I got older, I played up until about high school. And when I got older, my priorities changed with, getting involved with music and trying to, fulfill those dreams. But baseball, man, that was like my favorite thing when I was a kid. And I mean, I played shortstop, and, just played in some really good leagues when I grew up in like Garfield Heights. And then I moved to Strongsville. And when we moved to Strongsville, I played baseball, and it was like, the teams that it's kind of a funny story. When my son was playing the other day, went to his game, and his team, he's on the Yankees. And when I grew up in Garfield Heights, our teams were like the Yankees, the Orioles, the White Sox, the Indians. And my team was the White Sox. So I'm actually glad that it wasn't a sponsored thing, but it was, like sponsored teams, that was like, whatever, like, yeah, we're whatever, we're McDonald's. Like that's, I like the baseball team. That's why I think I really loved playing baseball as a kid, because we played with, like a professional baseball team's name, and I tried out for my high school team, and, I had to work, and I was working at the time. I was working at a grocery store called Finest and in Strongsville. And I basically was, I tried out, and I missed the practice because my dad worked for the company, and I didn't want to disappoint my dad. And he got me a job so I could buy all the guitar stuff, because he wasn't just going to go take me to the store and go buy my gear, like I had to earn it myself, and in fact, if you look in the background, that's right there, that my guitar, if you see in the background right there, that's my first guitar I ever bought because of my job,
Nice.
Paid for it on my own.
Yeah, the old school mentality, man, when we had to earn our shit.
Oh, I know. And I'll tell you, it's I appreciated it. I appreciated everything I've ever done, But like I said, I wanted to play baseball. But it's cool. It's my son's first year playing fast pitch baseball, and he skipped a couple years, because he was playing baseball or played T-ball, and then COVID hit,
Yeah.
And they were, I was playing T-ball, whatever, and they was playing soccer, and then COVID hit, and it was like, it kind of got out of it a little bit, because they were going swimming every day in the summer, and it's like, I'm glad he's getting back into it, and he really likes it. So it's kind of awesome to see, But I don't want to be like a Tiger Woods dad either, though. I don't want to be like, but at the same time, like I want him to know that, like, hey, I played baseball, and a funny story was his first game that he played, I went, and they had an inning where they were going, it was the pitcher was walking everybody, and it just kept on scoring runs, and he was playing in the outfield, and I seen him, and he turns his hat on backwards, right? Now this is some old school mentality here, whatever. Like the whole thing, I was like, okay. He comes in from the outfield after they had that rough inning, They scored like 10 runs. He comes in, and I go, hey, come here. And he comes over by the fence. I go, don't ever turn your hat on or turn your hat backwards during a game. It's disrespectful. Well, Dad, it was. I go, dude, don't turn your hat on backwards. It's and he was just like floored by it, but because he's like, why are you yelling at me about my hat? I got to teach him the game, how I learned how to play the game, and you respect the game,
Yeah.
So it was kind of a cool fatherly moment, but then I pictured my grandpas and my dad, and you know what I'm saying? Like all those people when I was a kid,
Yeah.
You got yelled at for stupid stuff,
Yeah. Dude, I remember when my youngest daughter got into wrestling, and they would have like, that was when they started letting girls wrestle. And I took her it was at my old high school where I wrestled, and I became like one of those Tiger Woods dads, dude. And I ruined it for her, and it sucked because she actually had a lot of potential and did really good her first year. And then, years gone by, she gets into jujitsu now, which she's still doing. And, I told the coach, I ruined wrestling for her. He's like, well, that's why you're going to shut the fuck up and let me coach. And I was like, all right, got it. And now she's still doing it. So,
well, that's the whole outlook that I have right now is like, he wants to play baseball. He chose to play baseball. Learn the game, respect the game. And I played really well when I was a kid, and I learned the game and played it all summer. Now it's your turn. You chose to do it. And I got a lot of customers will ask me, well, do you ever want your kid to play music? Is he playing music? I go, no, not at all. Because I'm not gonna jam it down his throat, because that's not how I was raised. I was raised like, if you're gonna do something, do it.
Yeah.
And
don't quit, Yeah,
you don't
if you're
quit.
going to start something, you finish the season. And if you don't want to go back next year or whatever, that's fine. But at least finish what, And that's
when I played baseball, I tried out for my high school team. I knew I was better than the shortstop that played, and I knew I was, I could hit better. But I missed that practice, and I was irresponsible like that. And you know what? I chose a different path at that moment, and the path was, in my opinion, and we wouldn't be talking to me right now if I didn't, choose that path, and it was music, and I was like, from that point on, I was like, that's it. I'm 100% in with this music shit,
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about that too, because you were kind of like already a music fan and working to buy your own equipment while playing baseball. But who were some of your like early influences that influenced you to start pursuing music?
So my neighborhood that I grew up in, my buddy Frank, he, I don't even know how, one day he just started like listening to, well, actually it's funny. He got a Bon Jovi Slippery When Wet tape for his birthday. It was like 1986 or something. And he got a tape for his birthday. And we made, I forget who bought it for him, like his cousin or something bought him the tape, right?
Yeah.
And I think we busted his balls pretty, like Slippery When Wet. We listened to it, because it was something new, I was like, oh, what is this, And I really didn't like it. But then, like, literally within weeks, we were already moving into, like, Sabbath. And then, like, dude, he got like he had records like the Butthole Surfers, like 45, GBH, Dead Kennedy. So we started getting into like punk stuff, you know? And then right after that, we started getting into metal. Like, I mean, it just, to me now, it just happens so quickly. And that's without the internet. But like, actually, when you really think about it, it's probably like a good couple years, you know, like from junior high, like 1986-ish. I got Master of Puppets, a copy of Master of Puppets. I got a copy of Anthrax Among the Living, which was like, I think that record right there, that tape, I should say, that tape right there, I listened to that so much, right? And then I'll never forget, I got Slayer, Rain and Blood, and that's probably where things kind of got like, okay, this is crazy. We were listening to like Venom, Metallica, but Slayer, Rain and Blood, it was a cassette tape, and I would listen to it on the way to school. I'd listen almost to the whole tape, and then when I get to school, if in the hallways, I would listen to it, and then on the way home, I'd listen to it. Like, I just couldn't stop listening to that, that tape, and it was amazing, you know. So the early influence of all those bands, you know, Exodus. I mean, I could name 50 million bands, and the cool thing is, we played with a lot of those bands, you know, like from Metallica to Maiden to, we played with Priest, we played with all of them, you know, and that's, you know, at festivals and whatnot. And it's like, to me, everything was, I mean, it's cool that we had it as a career, but touring with Slayer, when we did that tour, I told myself, I said, if this never goes on past this, I've lived my dreams. It's like, we toured with Slayer and we became friends with Slayer. It was like, okay, unbelievable, you know?
Yeah. You're jumping ahead on me, but so yeah, you were listening to those bands. They got you influenced to start playing. When did you start playing? Like, you know, meet some like-minded people and form your first band and start playing like locally?
So in ninth grade, this is a funny story. In ninth grade, I was supposed to go. So Strongsville had 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, right? And you went to the high school, 10th grade, 11th, and 12th, right?
Yeah.
I met my friend Ed Gandalf, and I met him in my second year of 9th grade, because what happened was I was working at the time at the grocery store, and I had money, and I told my dad, I go, the teachers going to, whoever called, they said, he's not going to pass unless he goes to summer school. Well, I had the money for summer school, and my dad said, no, you're not going to summer school. I go, Dad, I got the money. He's like, no, you're staying in 9th grade. I go, no, you can't do this. This is no. I didn't argue as much as I'm saying right now. I definitely was like, all right, but like, you can't do this to me. I'm going to be, but if it wouldn't have ever happened, I would have never met my friend Ed, and I would have never started getting into playing music, you know, because before that we were listening to all those bands and going over and watching this one dude, Nick, I think his name was Nick. Yeah, he'd come over and he'd play guitar. We'd all sit around and be like, oh, this is cool. And one night we just took band pictures, and we weren't even in a band. Nobody even played instruments because we were just like so excited about it, you know. And you know, it's kind of surreal now to think of that's 35 some years ago, you know. But yeah. All those, you know, those people that we played with back in the day, like my guys from high school, both my drummer and my bass player, you know, our drummer passed away in our high school band. He committed suicide in 1994, and that was a tough thing, dude. I was 18 years old, and you know, we sounded good. You know, we kind of broke up after high school, and then got back together in the fall. Like we were just like right in the summer, you know, like kind of like we're like, oh, this is not going to work. They were arguing about stuff. Our drummer wanted to play like Guns N' Roses stuff, and we wanted to head towards Metallica and whatever. We were listening to like Sepultura and bands like that. You know, like all these newer bands were coming out, Pantera, and you know, he wanted to go more that hard rock route. Like, you know, it's like a real good, you know, Steven Adler type of drummer. And when he died, it was a weird thing because I've never from that point on had more of an effort, whatever you want to call it, a bug to do it even more, to try to keep on, getting better at playing music and and do more things, to get noticed and stuff like that,
Yeah. What band was that?
Our band in high school was called Sacrifix.
Okay.
We played with bands like Ludacy, SSA, I think we played a show with Hatrix probably back then, if I remember correctly, or we went to a Hatrix show. Dude, we were like 17 years old,
Yeah.
So,
So you're hitting like Flashes and the Fantasy and stuff like that.
Yeah, I got a great story about Flashes. If you want to hear a Flashes story, I tell this story at the barbershop all the time because, as I've gotten older, you're just like, okay, like these stories are way funnier now. But like, I was 17 years old, and I told my parents I want to do this band stuff. I got to go to this club. I'm going to go work. I was a loader, at the shows,
Yeah.
And what happened was, I'm loading out some band. I forget what band it was. It might have been, I forget, a Grunt Truck or something like that. Remember that band?
No, not really.
Yeah, they were. I think they were a Roadrunner band back then, and they were playing. And we're loading their equipment out. And you've been to Flashes, right? Obviously.
Oh yeah.
Like when you walk out the back door to Lorraine Avenue, like the back of the stage where you load out, like buses would be parked back there or whatever. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, we're loading out, and the guy goes, "You got to close the door because it's going to get loud." So I close the door. I'm 17. This older guy's, the guy's, big dude. He's standing at the door, and I'm like, I'm closing the door to, keep the sound because the next band was going on, right? So all of a sudden I see him go like this, with his something in his nose, and he's like, sniffing and shit like that. I'm like, I go, "Oh, dude, I have allergies too." he totally green young guy, I'm like, I had no idea he's doing coke or whatever, and I'm like, I'm 17. I'm telling my parents, I'm like, "Yeah, everything's cool. Don't worry about me down here. I got it," And here I am seeing all that shit,
Yeah.
But it was funny,
Learning about allergies. Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, I got allergies too." He's like, "I ain't no allergies, dude." So, yeah.
But yeah. So then you were doing that for a while. When did Chimaira come together for you?
Well, it's Mark and I. So my high school band, after our drummer passed away, do you remember Country Kitchen in Strongsville?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, after he died, it was maybe about a month or so, 2 months. I can't remember. He died in November. So it must have been like springtime or something like that. And, I played with Mark while I was doing my high school band. Just I'd ride my bike over his house and we go jam and shit, because he lived right down the street. So I go over there or whatever. And then, after Matt passed away, we kind of wanted to do the band still. And I told my buddy Ed, and he was going to Ohio State during all that. And he ended up coming back and going to, I think he ended up going to Cleveland State after that. So he was home, and he was our singer guitar player. So I'm like, "Hey, let's get Mark to play drums, man. This is, he's good, dude. Let's, it's like, all right. So we brought Mark up to Country Kitchen, and we said, "Hey, dude, we want you to play drums for us." And that basically started like Mark and I playing together. Like literally, that was probably like 1994. Yeah, 1994. Then by the next year, we said that was kind of doing whatever, and then that band was kind of like we recorded a bunch of songs at Ben's studio, back then, and we were the first band to ever record at Spider, we were the first band to pay, literally at Spider Studios.
Oh wow, so much history.
Yeah, because we all went to high school together,
Yeah.
So what happened was we went and went to the studio, put a bunch of stuff, and then Mark started wanting to do some side project stuff. So we kind of started this hardcore band because by that time, Mark was kind of getting into hardcore, and I was like listening to like Biohazard and bands like that, and I'm like, because Biohazard, Sepultura, and Pantera went on tour, and I was like, that's the kind of hardcore I like. And then he started showing me like, he's like, check this band out. It's like Earth Crisis. I'm like, oh, these guys are cool, and like, eventually within a year, we had played a show. By that time in 1995, we had already played shows with Paul, who was the bass player of Shadows Fall. So we had met him back in the 1995. We met Beatty and Jamie from Hatebreed back then. So we played an afternoon show back in 1995, and playing with all the hardcore bands from Cleveland. One Life Crew, Integrity, Ringworm, all those bands. Like we started kind of getting in with all them, and I'm not saying getting in with it, but like trying to be a part of that whole movement. If you want to call a movement in Cleveland, I would say back then was probably a very big influence on Cleveland was those bands. I mean, it was Skipline. We were in Skipline. We formed that by then, and then Ascension and us were playing shows together. And we're playing with One Life Crew, Integrity. I think we played with Mushroom Head at the Odeon for that big festival. Remember that festival they did back then?
Oh yeah.
So literally from high school to 1995, so I graduated in 93 to 95 is when basically we started getting involved with like being around all these other bands and knowing dudes from like Shadows Fall and dudes from Hatebreed and stuff like that since the 90s. You know what I'm saying? So it's very cool to have to been a part of that stuff back in the day. And then we played a show and our van got ripped off and everything got stolen in Providence, Rhode Island, and that stopped us for a while.
Yeah, that'll kind of put a damper in things a little bit.
Well, yeah, it was a cool scene. It was a cool scene back then. Like it was cool to be a part of all that. I see pictures of like me at shows and stuff from back then. I'm like, damn, I knew I didn't look cool, but I was friends and cool with everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As I look at me, I'm like, oh, what an idiot. I look stupid. But at the same time, I was like, hey, I'm just here enjoying all this stuff, and I get to play music, and I'm having fun. This is very cool,
And that was definitely quite an era here in the Cleveland music scene to be a part of. I mean, there was so much, even though there was always shit talking, but there was always like everybody had each other's backs and would put each other on each other's shows and stuff like that. Yeah,
I mean, it was like, I don't even know how to explain it to people because, I love all the New York bands. I love, like, I'm friends with a lot of those good, friends with Madball guys and stuff like that. And like, I'm jealous of how awesome their scene was.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of history there. You know what I'm saying? And Cleveland has that, but it's a Cleveland thing. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's our thing. But it's cool because after we started touring with Chimaira back in the early days, a lot of the newer bands that were coming up were listening to a lot of the Cleveland bands. They kind of grew up listening to them. So it was kind of surreal to hear like dudes like I can't remember any bands now off my top of my head, but like they'd always talk about listening to Integrity, Ringworm, and One Life Crew and stuff. They love that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, like I mean, I'm in fucking Germany, and we're talking about One Life Crew and stuff like that. You're like, wow, man, that's awesome. Which is interesting because One Life Crew, if you really think about them, they're way, way, way ahead of their time when it came down to being a politically motivated band. They were ahead of their time with what's going on right now. So,
Exactly. They were calling it. They were ready.
Oh, yeah, they called Oklahoma was only the beginning. Remember that line?
Oh, yeah.
I remember hearing that. I was like, wow, dude, they said that in a record? No other bands back then, none of them hardcore bands were bringing them type of topics up because you'd get shunned. And I mean, it's still the same type of
you get canceled for sure.
Yeah,
but,
it was the early days of canceling.
Yeah, but I mean, much respect for just having the balls to speak of, what they felt.
110%. I mean, think about the stuff that they said, and they were called racists back then.
Oh yeah,
but what the thing is, it's like you think about that stuff. It's like, geez, like I know those dudes are friends with everybody in different races.
Yeah,
I know that.
Exactly.
Like they're all there. Like it's just I don't understand why people even.
Who is the rap dude that they brought in that one album too, just to kind of say give an F you to everybody else calling.
Yeah. What was his name?
That was kind of like their way of just saying, you know, F you to all the whiny people.
Yeah, I
that
mean,
just right away called them racist, you know.
Yeah.
But
Shady Shade.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, I think listening like bands like Ringworm was like one of my first favorite bands because like I heard their demo, and when I heard Ringworm, I was like, dude, what the hell? This band they're from Cleveland? How do they sound like this? I didn't understand that. I couldn't understand why they sounded so good. I was like, this is insanely good, right? And I always tell James this, I always tell him this story. I'm like, yeah, first time I met you, dude, I was kind of a fanboy and you kind of blew me off, dude. At the Odeon. He's like, but anyway, I like to bust his balls about that. You know, he's one of the greatest guys ever. He done some tattoos and stuff, dude, you know.
Yeah, I know. I got a couple of tattoos from him on me. And then, you know, I learned so much about the history of our scene, and then, you know, got exposed to so much of that New York hardcore scene that you were talking about earlier when me and Frank Novinic lived together, you know. I mean, still good friends to this day, man. And I just, you know, I saw how much work he was putting in back in the day for Ringworm. And I'm so happy for him, what he's doing now, being with Hatebreed and everything.
Dude,
you know?
Frank used to come over. When I used to work in Strongsville at the barbershop, Ledgewood Barbershop in Strongsville, Frank was working at the what's that battery? Tire and battery. What's that?
National Tire and Battery at NTB.
NTB. He'd come over. I'd fade him. I'd give him fades. You know, and I always just I laughed one time we were in Germany or somewhere in Europe at a festival, and we're talking to the guy. You know, I don't know, whoever was in the bus, and I'm just like, you know, I used to fade Frank's hair at the barbershop, and you know, like everyone's like, really? I'm like, yeah, we've known each other a long time, dude. You know, it's great.
So
it's cool. It's cool. It's a cool feeling, you know. All that stuff makes you feel good when you start thinking about it. But you know, life's so busy that it's fun to do this kind of stuff like that. You know, like this right now, because it's good to reminisce about all that stuff. You know. Oh,
for sure, man. And just to appreciate, to look back and appreciate where he came from in the day and age of, you know, going to Kinko's and taking the band logos and making your own flyers. And, you know, there was no social media, man. It was like the hustle to get your band recognized, to get noticed, you know, going to the record exchange and dropping flyers all over the place and stuff. I think that's why all of us older musicians that are still doing this stuff basically have such an appreciation for it, because we worked so hard to get feedback that wasn't data, like you know, computer data. It was like, how do you, like the first time ever we played with Skipline, we the first time we ever played that we had fans. I'll never forget that moment. And it wasn't even really fans; they just knew our songs, right? We played in Kent with Skipline, and Kent's not that far from here, you know. Yeah. But there was probably 50 people at the show. And these kids start coming up and singing the songs. I'm like, I remember looking at, you know, Ben, Mark, and our singer, Craig at the time. I'm like, how do they freaking know us? This is crazy. I don't know any of these people in this room. You know what I'm saying? That moment changed my life, dude. It changed my life because I was like, I'm not a drug addict. You know what I'm saying? So that was my drug, though. That was that feeling was something that I pursued 15 years or so after that, and you know, and now we get to do it as a great escape from our reality that we're living normal lives again, you know. Not touring and doing all that stuff, you know. So I mean, that was before the internet, like we said too. So it's like people had to have your material to learn it, you know. They had to have your, you know, access to it, and maybe it was a copy of it too, or whatever. Maybe it was a bootleg, but whatever. You were just like, hey, it's getting out there and people are here and they're singing along. But you know, getting back to starting Chimaira, what was you know, when you know, Skipline kind of wrapped up and you guys started this, what was the inspiration? I was always been curious about the inspiration for the name.
Okay, so I wasn't a part of all that. I was playing. So after our stuff got stolen from Providence, Rhode Island, we tried to keep the band going for a little bit and try to like do some member changes and stuff like that. But what happened is the band that after we formed with Ben after that was more of an alternative rock band. And we learned a lot from this dude that pretty much by 19 going on 20, by that time, that was the first time we actually had a record deal offered to us. This is actually kind of a crazy story because I never really talk about it. But we had this guy, his name was Bobby, and he came into the band, and like they asked me to play bass. Basically, I mean, they wanted me to play bass, and I was like, all right, yeah. I was just trying to piece together the band after it cost me $1,000 out of my pocket to go play a show and use an equipment that I borrowed from Len Teens that I had to pay $1,000 for because it got stolen. So I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to get new gear, all this stuff. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, why don't you come join this band? I'm like, I don't even have a bass, dude. I don't have nothing. So, I was cutting hair and shit, and all this stuff was crazy at that time. And I'm like, all right. So started buying some gear and moving towards bass. And I really learned how to play bass in that band, with Ben and his brother and my buddy Brad, who played with Nonpoint and stuff like that. So all of us kind of were doing this, this alternative rock band. And to be honest with you, that was probably some of the best recordings that I've ever been a part of. Were those those two things that we released, and it was cool because the guy that came in the band said, if you guys do this, he's like, we'll get you a record deal. I got you a record deal with Warner Brothers. I'm like. So we're all just like, okay, we're 19, not even 20 years old. And all this shit starts kind of happening. We're like, okay, so now what do we do? This is kind of crazy. So, and it was right in the beginning of the band. And we were rehearsing. I had to quit my job at the one barbershop I was working. I worked a day. My singer calls me and he goes, dude, this guy's going to sign us to Warner Brothers. You got to quit your job. I'm like, dude, I just fucking started this job. So I go in the next day and I told the boss, actually the barbershop that I own now, that barbershop, we named it after the guy that I had to go up and tell him. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to quit. He's like, you just started. I'm like, yeah, I got this band thing, got this record deal thing going on. And it was cool. But the thing is, it was a good lesson to learn at that time. How do I put it? You can get really burned in the music industry. And we were kids and we were like, yeah, there's a lot of kind of whatever. There's a lot of dream stuff. You're like, oh, this is going to be cool. And it's kind of it never happened.
What was the name of that band again?
Not So Blah.
Not So Blah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing about that band is after Ben and them got signed by Immortal Records, they were on the same record as Korn. This guy calls Joe, the guitar player, and he goes, hey, I just came across this CD. It's phenomenal. And he goes, yeah. He goes, yeah, are you guys signed or anything like that? He's like, you signed us already. We're called Switched. So they discovered that record years afterwards, didn't even realize that they actually signed the artist. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. Yeah. So, it's kind of funny how that kind of happened, Joe told me that story. I was like, what? So it's cool. That's what I'm saying. That data, that feedback, it sometimes is not because of the internet and how it is now. That data and feedback back in the day, it sometimes took a long time to get through to people, Now everything moves so fast. So, I don't even think I'd be motivated nowadays if I had to do it now the way we did it back then, because we'd be like, oh, this is easy. Just get AI to do this, Yeah.
No shit. So then when did Chimaira come together for you then? Chimaira.
Well, so I was doing that band. We stayed with that band for a couple years, about 4 years, and I was working and playing shows and playing college shit, all these college bars and stuff in the state of Ohio. A couple out of town shows, played New York City, Philadelphia a couple times, and got some experience, playing in front of nobody. in New York City was still playing in front of a million people in my eyes, because it was cool to play in New York City at that time, you know, even though there was nobody there, you know, it was fucking 10 people, 20 people at the show, you know. But we did that band for a while, and Mark started Chimaira with Hagar, and they started all that, you know, that they started it back then. And their bass player, I think the bass player from high school went to college. That was AE. And then when he left, they got Rob. And then Rob, I don't know what happened with them, but they called me. They're like, hey, come down. We needed you to record a song at what's his name's studio, Mars. Bill Korecki's studio.
Bill Korecki, yeah.
So I recorded a song with that compilation tape that they put out. Remember that Record Industry, whatever it was called? I can't remember the name of that right now.
Oh yeah.
Industry
yeah.
comp.
Yeah.
So I went and played with Chimaira, but I wasn't even in the band. And I'm like, these guys were like suckering me in a little bit. Come on, man, you know, come on and play. I'm like, dude, I got this barbershop, I'm making good money, you know. I just got this girl. I just broke up with this girlfriend, and I was dating for a little while, and it just, you know, I'm like, and they just brought me in. And I was like, this. And then we played our first show, and I was like, dude, okay, I was 100% in at that point.
Yeah, where was the first show at? Was that the Fantasy?
My first show was at the Peabody's.
At Peabody's, all
the
right.
old Peabody's, though.
The old one down the flats or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, so then once you hit the stage with them there, then that was it. Then you were in.
Well, I could that energy kicked in, like, especially because the Skipline stuff was like a great taste of it, but it wasn't. It was so filled with negativity, and what I mean by negativity was just bad aura. Because once we got that stuff stolen, it didn't work out, you know, and it was just like It was what we wanted Chimaira to be back then, but it wasn't working. You know what I'm saying? It's just the pieces just weren't working. It just didn't happen, you know? And then when we did Chimaira, when I joined Chimaira, like, I got that taste again, and I was like, dude, okay. Then we played another show, and I'm like, okay, now we're going to go on tour. I'm like, I can't do this. It's like 3 weeks. So I told my boss again, I go, hey, this band's doing this. But the cool thing about that whole situation was, like, you know, we did that TV show Farm Club, right?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, what that experience was like with our buddy Matt Pinfield.
Yeah, he was the host.
Yeah.
That guy knows every band, dude. He's awesome. That's his job to know.
Yeah, he's a walking encyclopedia of music, man.
Yeah, I've met him a couple of times. He's super cool. You know, like, I met him here. He did some type of thing at the Rock Hall, and that was cool. I got to see that. You know, just him talking about music, and you know, it's really cool. You know, because that show really. So I always tell, like, the Farm Club story. From my personal view of the Farm Club story would be like, I would tell people, like, we played Los Angeles. Like, our band played Los Angeles. Half the band flew out there, and half the band drove the equipment out there, right? Trying to do some business out there. You remember Tom Hazard?
Yeah, yeah.
We were doing some, you know, trying to get, like, stuff known out there, right?
Doing, like, showcases and stuff.
Yeah, we did a showcase at the Troubadour, and I remember we played, like, I think there's probably 40 people in there. Dude, we flew all the way out to the fucking West Coast, and it was like 40 people out there. It was like, okay. And Dino from Fear Factory came to, I don't know if he caught our whole set, but, you know, he came down, like, I think we were getting done and he was there. So I don't know if he saw the full set, but it was like, that was awesome. Like, you know, that was cool that he came out there, you know. And actually I think it was that week that we actually, that same week, or maybe me and Mark and I went out there afterwards for like a couple days, maybe like a week out in Los Angeles after that. But we actually hung out with Stefan because he liked our band from the Deftones, and Be Real from Cypress Hill, and Dino from Fear Factory. We all went back to Steph's. He had like an apartment or a practice rehearsal place where he could go jam and all that stuff. And we played Tony Hawk Pro Skater all night with, like, Be Real and I, like, and Stefan and Dino and Mark and I and Tom.
Nice.
It was probably one of the coolest nights I've ever had, you know?
Yeah.
Just playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I'm like, oh, I beat you guys. Yeah, sweet, you know? Anyways, what were we saying about the whole thing about Farm Club? So we went out to Farm Club, and then we flew back out to Los Angeles again, and we did with the Farm Club show, right? Then we went back again to Los Angeles and played our first headlining show at the Troubadour and sold the Troubadour out right after that. It was awesome. Nice. So it was like, the funny thing is, it's like, to think about, at that time, we actually had national TV that gave us that boost because what happened, we were on mp3.com and we were getting a lot of plays, like really tons of plays and getting a lot of notice online in that beginning phase of that, right? And I remember seeing us and like, you know, our name was, I mean, Lincoln Park had a lot more listens than us, but we were close and we were like getting a lot of feedback from that, you know? And then I forget how we got on the Farm Club, not how we got on the Farm Club, but like when we did it, whatever time of the year that we did it. But after we did that and came back and played that next LA show, it was awesome, dude. It's totally like, I couldn't believe it. I just remember seeing, like, if you ever been out there to the Troubadour in Los Angeles?
No.
So if you're looking at the front of the club, you take a right and you're looking and you see the Beverly Hills sign. It's like right there, right? It's probably a block away, right? Our line went from that door to that street. I was like, holy shit. And I remember just like, I can't believe those people were there to see us. To be here, to be a band from Cleveland and to do all the stuff that we did back then, and then playing in Los Angeles and like being on TV, it was a little surreal at the time. I got to admit, you know, like, you know, that was the first couple of years of being in that band. I mean, it was like, okay, I wasn't, my head wasn't inflated into the sense that I'm still the same person, but I was excited. Like, it was very, very fun. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. Everything went from shit down steps, maybe a couple steps up, to just like boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, whoa. This is way crazier of a roller coaster ride than I expected, you know?
Yeah. Then the escalator went up, you know?
But the thing is, the problem that I had with it, I'll be honest with you, what I had with this is after all that stuff that happened, now I'm friends with a lot of the bands, like the Ringworm guys, but like we'd go back to practice at that old studio off of Rock and Roll City.
Yeah, Rock and Roll City.
And, you know, I talked to be like, dude, bands are talking shit about you guys. I'm like, what? Like,
yeah,
dude,
Cleveland.
Bands don't like you guys. I'm like, why? I go, what do we do? Like, they're like, oh, I go, why don't they like us? What do we do to piss them off?
You succeeded.
And, you know, one buddy goes, you guys are probably because you guys are doing well. I go, we're trying to help Cleveland get on the map. So I'm not mad at people like for that, but like I never understood why people like, you know, like
Dwid used to say, Cleveland eats their own, man. It's sad.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, I remember that too. But you know, you guys, you get out there, you know, things start taking off, like so many memories. And you know what I've enjoyed too about watching the journey is the quality of work you guys would put into things to bring people on the ride. And as you were like taking off worldwide, you always recognized Cleveland, though. You always gave back to Cleveland, like, you know, the videos that you guys did, the documentaries and stuff, always, you know, showing love for Cleveland, you know. And
I mean, listen, I was born and raised. I wasn't born in Cleveland. I was born in Erie, Pennsylvania. So, and actually, I'll be 50 next week. I'm turning 50. So I hope that Brian Osborne mentioned me in his Facebook birthday posts. He actually did that one time.
That's when you know you've made it. When Brian Osborne.
That's how you know you made it in Cleveland. If Brian Osborne wishes you happy birthday on his birthday Facebook posts.
Yeah.
He's one of the greatest guys ever. I always look at his posts. Didn't we talk about that last time at the barbershop?
I think we did. Yeah, I went to high school with Brian. We've been friends since junior high.
He's a great guy. He's a great guy.
Mrs. OD's class, I think
he's the pivotal point of Cleveland via Frank and a lot of famous people. Isn't that crazy? It's kind of a cool, especially because you're like, it's what's it called? It's Donald Trump's birthday. Here's Brian Osborne with Donald Trump. Just kidding. I'm just kidding, Brian. I don't know if he likes Trump or not, but whatever. I'm just saying.
But yeah, he's like the Kevin Bacon of Cleveland.
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
He's everybody.
He's the Kevin Bacon of metal and hardcore.
And porn.
That's funny.
But what I also enjoyed about, I mean, and I know you got so many memories from the time getting out and traveling the world. But I remember there's a time you guys did play some military bases too, and you got to like tour Dubai and stuff like that. What was that experience like for you guys, riding camels and quad riding and all that?
Yeah, that was awesome. Dubai was pretty cool, man. That was 5 days over there. That was like, I don't know, it was pretty surreal, like very futuristic type of city, like a futuristic Vegas type of city. It was pretty sweet. The coolest thing, I think, I got a good story about that. I think I got a good story about everything, really. These are my stories. See, my ultimate goal was, Bill, I'll tell you right now, was when I first started cutting hair, okay, I was working at my uncle's barbershop, okay, and I always remember these people would come in. It was in Mayfield Heights, and remember these people coming, I'm going on vacation, I'm doing this. Remember these people traveling. I'm like, I never got jealous of what they were doing because I was like, yeah, someday I'll do whatever. I don't care, whatever. It's cool. But in the back of my head, I was always like, man, I would love to someday be able to tell, oh, you're going over to Japan? That's cool. I've been there. You know what I'm saying? Like, to be able to talk about that type of thing, I didn't have that experience back then, but now it's great. And the funny thing is, it's like, I don't even, what I talk about at the barbershop. And I was like, I don't even care about any of that shit anymore. I was like, I mean, I get a customer in my chair. I'm just like, what's really going on, dude?
Yeah.
You really know what's going on? I'll tell you right now. I had this old guy in my chair the other day, actually, funny, quick story. I was telling him stuff. I know, I feel these customers out, sometimes it takes me 10 haircuts to see what a guy is politically, how he stands, okay?
Yeah.
And it sometimes takes me 20 haircuts. But this guy the other day, I said, I see where he was. It took me a long time to get his opinion because I don't want to offend anybody. You know what I'm saying? I want them to be comfortable in the chair. I want to have a conversation that, like, even if we don't agree politically, at the end of the conversation, you're going to look good, you're going to feel good, and I hopefully made you laugh. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But going back to the story of Dubai, I'll never forget, right before we went on stage, we're playing for about 10,000 people in the desert, right? Actually in the city. This guy comes up to me, he's like, Jim. I go, hey, how are you doing? Hey, what's up, man? He's like, oh, your band's one of my favorite bands. I go, oh, total Arabic dude, right? I'm like, oh, that's cool, man. Awesome. Sweet. I mean, I'm just making up what I'm saying. He goes, do you know how big your band is in Iran? I go, whoa, wait, where are you from? He's like, Iran. I go, you're from Iran? And you know of my band? He's like, oh, you don't know. Your band, everybody, my friends, they love you. I'm like, I say, get the fuck out of here, really? He's like, you got to come and play in Iran. I go, dude, I don't know if you know this or not. I don't think your country likes my people. He's like, oh, no, it's not like that. Not like that. I go, dude. Anyways, but I said, nice to meet you. Nicest guy. I think I gave him a guitar pick at the end of the show. But I said to myself, I said, you know what? Our music is universal. When I heard, and I remember one time we were in Europe and we met the one of the Roadrunner reps for the outside of Europe and America. He represented like Asia. They represented like all these crazy countries. I'm like, oh yeah, your record did. I'm like, what? Like this country? I'm like, wow. It's pretty awesome to know that. That's one thing I think at the end of the day, that our music hit the planet. You know what I'm saying? That's a very cool thing to know. Regardless of, it doesn't matter how many records you sell. Hey, you know what? I'm connected to the whole world right now. You know what I mean? That by songs.
Yeah.
Cool. It's a cool thing.
I mean, music is definitely a universal language. I interviewed a band from Kuwait on here not too long ago, which was really cool because that was the last deployment I was on, was in Kuwait. So we like talked about, there's like, we talked about our differences, but we talked about what brings us together. I was just supposed to interview a band from Saudi Arabia the other day, and we had to reschedule. They have a metal scene out there. There's a Middle Eastern metal scene, dude.
Yeah.
I believe that Iran's like big fans,
Listen, at the end of the day, there's a few things that I think of as an adult now. I'm almost 50 years old. That I think of at the end of the day, nobody likes their governments. Okay. Yeah. Nobody likes how their government treats the people because they enslave them all. Nobody in this world hates each other. It's all shit to make people. I mean, when you're sitting in a room with somebody, this guy could be typing shit about you, saying you're the biggest piece of shit. Whatever. I Googled your barbershop sucks. He gets in a haircut. He's like, oh, Jim, man, you don't know. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? Like, people in the same room, like, they don't understand that, like, when you're someone face to face, that stuff goes away because you can't hide behind something.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people do is they hide behind a government, hides behind, whatever. They try to scare you with everything. Yeah. And look at you see the barbershop, you see how many Veterans Days you've been doing now? Veterans Day, my barbershop for veterans, 3 days, 3-4 times now.
Yeah, like 4 years now, and and that's what I was going to get to too. Is like how you guys go all out for the veterans, with all the giveaways and the food and the coffee. You go in there, get a free haircut. You guys just definitely mad respect and love for the veterans.
Well, when I first opened the barbershop up, I had a lot of people like, do you do discounts for veterans? I'm like, nah. Do you do discounts for police officers? I'm like, nah. We just started, I'm like, you already want a discount? I'm like, we just opened. I'm trying to at least make the money we invested into this barbershop bag, right?
Yeah.
So my thing was, I was like, I was like, oh, how are we going to do something? And one of the kids that worked for me, his mother worked at a nursing home. She says, hey, we do a lot of events where we sponsor events. We should do a veteran. I go, she goes, we should do a Veterans Day free haircut thing. I go, you read my mind. I was looking for something to do because I can't say thank you to every veteran out there. I can't be like, and I don't, excuse me, I know enough veterans that come into my shop, thank you for your service. Like they don't like that, right? It's like someone, like someone coming up to me and be like, I get a little weirded out sometimes when, someone's like, hey, Jim from Chimaira. It's like, nah, dude, I just cut hair, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get that whole thing. So I can't thank everybody. And sometimes people don't want to be thanked. Sometimes like, oh, I don't like those free haircuts. I'm like, dude, come up to the barbershop, just get some food. I got a bunch of giveaway stuff. I've made it an event now that every year I just, I'm cutting, I forget, 50 to 75 haircuts, free haircuts for veterans on Veterans Day, And it's the only thing that I can think of to repay them. My father was a Navy vet, like my grandfathers both were in the Navy in World War II, like I can't thank those people enough for doing what they do to make everybody in this country realize that we live in the greatest country on the planet. We're lucky. Yeah. We're lucky to be raised here.
And what's great too is like, cause as someone that's been there, it's not just free haircuts. You work with local businesses and throw like, get people in there that donate either car washes and all kinds of stuff. And you got
my brother brings
your brother brings the pizza,
Yeah.
Mikey the pizza master.
What's that?
Mikey the pizza master or Master Pizza?
Master Mikey, yeah.
Master Mikey, man.
Either.
I'll have to get him on sometime. He's got stories for the world of pizza,
Yeah, he does. He would be good.
But I wanted to touch on before, you open the shop and everything, it's like everything, you put out multiple albums, you got the tour with, Slayer, you got to play festivals with Metallica and some of the bands that you looked up to, that influenced you, as you were saying in the beginning. And then, there was that time when you guys broke up. Want to touch a little bit about that?
With the band, you mean?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Something's going on at work right now. Something for work right now. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. Can you pause that?
Yeah. All right. So then, the band ended up, breaking up. I know there was a time period where just things got to be too much or whatever, people disagreements, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like the thing with the band was like we kept on going over to Europe a lot, and I just remember them saying, "You guys got to keep on building this." I'm like, dude, why are these other bands going over here and playing these festivals, and they got these other big shows? We need to get on those. Well, you got the, and we've been to Europe. I think we did like 18 tours to Europe, like I think it was total of 18 times. And it was a lot, and, the traveling, I just wanted to take I just met my ex-wife and, I wanted to take some time off, like we grinded for 10 years, I wanted to take a breath, and the guys didn't want to do that. And I understood. And, I was, Mark and I weren't getting along well at the time, and it was tough, and I just was like, and it's funny now because he does the barbershop website. We're so, and there was a time where I couldn't laugh at his jokes because I didn't think it was funny. Now it's like I wrote him an email for him to go live with our new prices on our website, and I had AI write the whole email. Like it was this freaking crazy email. And he just texted me back right after he read the email. He's just like LOL. Like, I'm like, yeah. So we've been together since, we played in bands since he was 15 or 14. I was 15. So we spent a lot of time together. We had one big fist fight that we had. So he made a good point after we had that fight. He's like, after all these years of being friends, we fought one time. I go, yeah, you're right. It was very tough to grind and do all the stuff that we did, and to see a lot of our other friends' bands get really successful. And I wasn't jealous. I was happy for them. Good for them. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I'm like, it was just like, I felt like it was going like this. But then the economy, it was like 2009, that whole thing that was going on. Gas prices were going up. We weren't making that, the money was going away. I'm like, dude, I can't do this. I have a skill, and I'm going to go cut hair. And that's what I did. I had to take a break from that, which was kind of crazy, But I had to bury the hatchet with Mark after 7 years, or it was probably like 6 years of not saying a word to him, living in the same city.
Yeah.
And when I moved back to, go ahead.
But I mean, it wasn't just you at the time. It's like everybody, Yeah,
it was. Yeah, I mean, it was tough. It's tough being on the road. It's tough living. It's tough living with another human being sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let alone 5 other guys in your band, crew guys, bus driver. I mean, tour dudes. It's like it was. I never got into drugs and shit like that, so I never really was a big drinker either. So to me personally, it was very hard because I guess sometimes when you drink and you do drugs, it takes your mind off of that stuff. I like to drink though. Don't get me wrong. I used to show up drunk with DeVries. Like I would just go drink and get drunk and then just go. I go up to man, I'd be like, "Hey man, what's going on?" And be like, "You're drinking." I go, "Yeah." And then 20 minutes later, I pass out. But I mean, I just, you know what I'm saying? I just never really, I just, that lifestyle can lead you to all those demons, and I never really, I guess mentally I just needed a break, and we all kind of needed a break, but it didn't happen that way. And like our band now, now doing this show coming up, it's like we get the benefits of not having to be out there in grueling, financial times and, and stressing about money,
I mean, I remember during that time period, during that break or whatever, it's like, that's when me and Mark actually started talking and hanging out. So I kind of formed a friendship with him during that time frame. And, because it's like everybody hears something, but it's like I'm one of those people that like I like to see for myself who people are and what people are like. And I got along good with him, and I always respected the fact that he's been open about, his mental health challenges, because it's like, it's stuff I struggle with too. And I always definitely respected him for that.
Yeah,
but,
it's definitely like, people have their things. I mean, hey, I bet you I wasn't fun to live around, but actually, I know I was. Actually, I take that back. I was real fun.
I haven't met a guy from any of the a lot of the bands that we're friends with that have anything bad to ever say about you. Everybody loved Jimmy.
I mean, I just when I'd be on a tour, I mean, I get called the mayor all the time. I'd be on a tour, we're like, there's the mayor. And it was like, hey, like we're on tour with Disturbed in arenas, like, dude, this is great. I love it. I'm having the greatest time of my life.
Yeah, but during that time when you were. You went back to, cutting hair and stuff, but you're still, music's always been in your blood, and you did some stuff with some local bands as well. You had some time in Impending Lies and Tenafly Viper and stuff with some of the Mushroom Head guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like talk a little bit about, kind of keeping involved, but and then you're becoming a father during that time frame. So you got to stay home, but also still pursue your two loves.
It was cool. Yeah, those bands, like doing those bands, like it was fun. One was to play out, do that, the Youth Forgotten and Impending Lies playing out. Tenafly played out some shows, with those guys as well. And it was just cool to kind of do it at my own pace, And it was cool for me to like, I wasn't looking for the ego thing, you know what I'm saying? We play clubs and be like, whatever, people were there, they got to see it, and like, they really, some people would really cut, something was kind of weird at points with sometimes when people would approach me, like they knew, I guess, who I was, but like I'd go up and say, hey, what's up, guys? And like, hey, what's up? We talk, like it just, I never ever made myself unapproachable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've always been that type of person, like, hey, I'll talk to anybody, whatever, give me, so it was more at my pace, and I enjoyed it. I look at my collection I have upstairs in my family room of all the CDs that we did and all the other stuff, whatever. It's just cool to know that, actually a cool thing is, our drumhead's going to be a permanent exhibit in the Rock Hall. And the cool thing is, the curator, or the lady that's in charge of it, sent me an email. I'm actually going to be going to, I think it's the Cuyahoga Community College that's down there. They have an archive thing for the Rock Hall. I'm on the archive. I'm actually, I don't have time right now because I got the show going on and stuff like that. But when I'm done with the show going into the fall, I'm actually going to go and get a hold of this person that works at the college there, and I'm going to bring in a bunch of my stuff to have it all archived for Chimaira stuff and all the stuff that I was previous bands, and have all that stuff archived in the Rock Hall archive thing at the Cuyahoga Community College.
That's awesome.
So the next phase is what I want to do is I kind of want to be that liaison for Cleveland bands, and I want to start collecting bands, old memorabilia, tapes, this and that, cassettes or CDs, anything, and start making a whole thing of, and archiving all that, for local bands, like I'm not, I try to, I've always wanted to be a part of the Rock Hall, be a part of that somehow. And I think I finally got my in. I just been really busy lately, and I want to get that going. I have that opportunity to do that. And it's probably something I'm going to be working on probably in the fall. So
nice.
So I'll probably have to use your help, and we can get some of these old bands. I don't know where I'm going with that yet, but I know that I'm going to be putting in basically everything I've ever been a part of into.
For sure, dude. I'd love to help you out with that. I love that they got, they got Uncle Scratch's Gospel Revival, Brother Ed's Megaphone and stuff there in the Rock Hall. It's just like, they got their local support section in there, and that's awesome that they do that. I wanted to ask too, before we talk about, the upcoming incarceration show, you touched briefly about burying the hatchet with Mark and stuff, everybody kind of coming back together, the reconciliation before the reunion show, what was that like? And I remember, like I said, sitting in your chair, and you couldn't tell me anything. And then, a couple days later I found out, when it's announced.
Are you talking about the first show before, or are you talking about the last two shows we played?
Well, yeah, the first show.
The first show, yeah, that was interesting because that first show, like, when it got announced, it was awesome because I was like, oh shit, here's this feeling again that I haven't had in a while. And like, it was like, okay, back home now. You know what I'm saying? Like, here we go. Like, it was a very exciting feeling. And then we did that show. I opened up my barbershop right after that. And then basically 6 years later, we did the other shows, but like, the thing was like that whole feeling was like, I guess I missed it a lot, and I wanted, like, burying that hatchet was like, it's not even burying a hatchet for the band and all that stuff. It's like, it's friendship thing,
Yeah.
The first meeting I had with Mark after all those years, I bring my son with me and I drove all the way from the east side to Strongsville Master Pizza. Right. And Mark made a joke about it. He go, I get there. I gotta go to the bathroom. Just, can you hang out with my kid for a second? I had to pee. So I go to the bathroom, and Mark said to me, he goes, he's like, I thought you were going to go into the bathroom and grab the gun out of the bathroom and come and shoot me, kind of like the Godfather. I go, no. I go, no. But it was funny that, like, the first time I've seen him all these years, he's sitting there with my son, hanging out with him. He's like probably like 3 years old or something, 4 years old at the time. But yeah, I mean, it's like, hey, dude, this is my kid, And my kid now, it's awesome too because he's like, he knows all the guys' bands in the band's names. Like, that's it's funny, like, he's like, who, Mark Hunter? Like, yeah. And he goes, who, Chris Spacuzza? If I talk to him, like, yeah. So I went and did a Rob Arnold's thing a couple weeks to his video thing a couple weeks ago, and I brought my son there. So my son and his son were playing and hanging out while we're doing our shit. It's pretty cool, man. It's pretty surreal to. Once you become a father, that's basically what happened to me. Was once I became a father, there's nothing more important in my life than my son's life. I don't care about anything else. I work, I do everything for him. And the band stuff, listen, it means a lot to me, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
It means to me like, hey, I got to do some cool shit. I'm cutting some kid's hair. He doesn't know about my band. 60% of those people, 75% of those people didn't know about my band until I told them about it.
Yeah.
So they don't care. They just know I'm a dad and I cut hair and I make people laugh and I talk about politics and try not to get cancer.
And like you said, man, getting becoming a father and stuff and how amazing that is. Like me and Hatrix, who you mentioned earlier, our daughters are like a couple months apart, and I got pictures of them in their diapers playing together, and then just, recently they've been out at shows together and stuff like that now, and hanging out. So it's just like cool to get our kids together and how it changes us and watching our kids now get to grow up around. Yeah, and we're just dads. It don't matter, who we hang out with or what we've done in like the scene. It's just, we're still just dad,
That's it. And I love to annoy the shit out of my kid too. I like to embarrass him. It's great. Dad, Dad, don't say that, Dad. I don't care.
Dad, that's not politically correct.
No, he doesn't say that kind of stuff, but he knows how mad I get on the freeway when people drive slow in the fast lane. I pretend like I'm gonna roll down my window and say, Dad, no. He starts tapping the thing. I'm like, I'm not gonna say nothing, don't worry. He knows I've gotten in a couple, like shouting matches with people, I'm like, dude, these people drive like idiots.
You'll know when you get a license.
Yeah.
But
speaking of, I gotta call him before he goes to bed, so it's getting late. I didn't realize it was this late, so
yeah, we're gonna get ready to wrap up here. I wanted to real quick, talk about the last two shows. Because speaking of your son, then that was the first time you actually got to play in front of him.
That was my goal, was to we played that first show for our bodies, our minds, or for our minds and our friendships to heal. The second show was for us to play, like for the fans, and not that I wanted my son to be a fan. I just wanted to show him what his dad did for a living,
Yeah.
So I bring my son.
I remember you got the little trailer and everything.
Yeah, I rented the RV for the weekend, and where he's sitting on there before the show. All these people are coming up. He didn't even care. He's like, "Can I get mac and cheese?" I'm like, "Yeah, you can have mac and cheese." Like, he comes up on the stage. He was rocking out. He loved it. He thought it was great. Right? Get done with the show. He comes to the Melt signing we did the next day. Right at Melt. Yeah. And I feel bad for Matt, man. You know what? He'll come back. I think that's going to be Matt will be back.
Yeah, I agree.
So. He's got a good product. I wish him a lot of luck. He's a good dude, man. Good-hearted dude. Great food. So, anyways,
for sure.
We did that. What's it called? The signing there. And this guy comes up and he goes, "Hey, can your son sign my thing?" I go, "Yeah, Jimmy, can you sign?" He's like, "Yeah." So we get done. He signs 40 autographs. He thinks it's the greatest thing. 40 or 50 he did, right? He counted them all. He's out there seeing all the fans and stuff like that. I called him on Monday because Saturday we played the show. I slept probably really hard on Sunday. I called him on Monday. Monday morning after school. I go, "Hey, how was school today?" He's like, "Dad, it was good." I go, "It was awesome." I go, "What'd you tell your friends about the weekend?" He goes, "Nothing." "Why?" I go, "What do you mean nothing?" He's like, "Oh yeah, they don't want to hear that stuff." Basically, I'm like, "Oh, okay." I go from all this high up here, and all this high, and Monday day, I was like, boom, he brings you right back down,
back to reality.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't care. That's my kid. I don't, that's why you have him.
Yeah, but I mean, those two nights were such a success. They were so well done. It was such a well done production, like high level, man. I mean, I definitely had a blast, but obviously it showed that, hey man, there's still a lot of gas left in this tank. And now you guys are getting to play, Incarceration Festival coming up here.
Yeah. And then we're doing a cruise with Lamb of God in the fall.
Yeah. And then doing the cruise with Lamb of God. So it's like,
yeah, but here's the thing. I think somebody said this, one of the guys in the band, I can't remember. I think it was Chris that said this. Like, people ask him, like, "What are you guys going to do next week?" He's like, just know that this could be the last time we ever play. This, because we don't know. We don't have to, we're doing these two things. It's just kind of, okay, cool. We're like kind of fresh off those shows. We're going to do these two things. And it's like, at the end of the day, that might be the last time we ever play. Who knows? We don't know.
Yeah. So there's no talk of maybe recording any new material or anything like that.
So
it's just like
I'm so busy with the shop and like my business and my kid and girlfriend and all that stuff now that, like, to be honest with you, I can't think that far in the future. I got all these other things that I think of. If they're like, "Hey, we need to do this," I'm in. You know what I'm saying? I just, there's nothing of that sort right now. I just, I don't even think of that. I can't think that far. I can't even think, let me tell you something. That cruise, we get back like November 2nd or 3rd. 2 days later could be the craziest day of the freaking world.
True.
The election.
Yeah,
seriously.
True. Yeah.
Once that election's over, I think we should be good. I'm not going to tell anybody how to vote. You do whatever you want. But just remember one thing. You get what you vote for.
Yep.
So that's all I got to say. I don't have to say too much. People know. I see it on Facebook and stuff and Twitter. I'm sorry, not Twitter, but Facebook and Instagram. People that talk all this stuff for the last 4 years ain't saying anything anymore. They ain't backing up anybody anymore.
It's crickets, man. You got to be, your head's got to be buried in the sand if you don't see what, what's going on.
But at the end of the day, I'm not really.
You got to love your country more than you hate one person.
The future of the existence of America, regardless of what side of the fence you're on, happens November 5th. That's and like I said, I can't even think past that right now, because to me that feels like it's going to be the end of the world.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
it's just,
so get these shows out while you can.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
I don't want to. I'm very nervous about being out of the country. I haven't been out of the country in years, and I'm going to be out of the country right before the election.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever.
Well,
What are you going to do?
yeah, exactly. One thing I learned during 2020 and all that uncertainty, because, you know, since I'm in recovery in a program, dude, that serenity prayer was my best friend. You know, what do I have control over, man? I just got to give it all to God. But, you know, one more time, the you know, playing the Incarceration Festival coming up. You guys have, like you mentioned, played quite a few festivals in the past, but is this your first time getting to play under the Danny Wimmer umbrella?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't think we've ever done anything. No, yeah, for sure.
And I remember, like, you know, us talking at Inc. last year. You got to kind of see a little bit of how things are like back there. You kind of looking forward to?
Oh yeah, totally. In fact, I offered to, because they have a barbershop backstage, so I can go cut hair all weekend.
Yeah, I showed you that they had that barbershop at Sonic Temple or whatever. I sent you that picture from backstage. I said maybe down the line that could be something else you could look into. Be the touring barber on the festivals.
I ain't going on the road again unless it's. I mean, it would cost. It's too much money. They can't afford me right now. I got my job is too important now. You know, like my parents are getting older, and there's no interest in going on the road unless it's lucrative. I mean, and to be honest with you, I hate to even say it that way, but it's like, dude, I'm 50 years old. I want to retire someday. You know, like I mean, you could make a lot of money if we went out there and did it, but like. I mean, dude, I'm on a CPAP machine, man.
Yeah, me, you and me both, brother.
Yeah. So, on that note.
Yeah. Well, hey, Jimmy, man, I appreciate the time, man. I know we could go on and on, but I definitely want to let you call your son and tell him good night and everything, man. Sure. But I appreciate the time and us getting this done tonight, man. And look forward to coming in and getting a nice fade again soon.
Perfect.
Now, before I let you go, you mind doing me one last favor?
Sure.
Just cut a promo ID for the show, introduce yourself, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Say it again. What do you want me to say?
Just introduce yourself, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hi, I'm Jim LaMarca, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Awesome. One take this time. Dude, I still got footage I got to show you from Ozfest back in the day when you and Mike the Gook kept screwing up the Domain Cleveland promo I kept asking you to do.
Bring that up in this video.
Yeah, I'll see if I can edit it in, man.
Perfect.
Awesome, brother. Well, thanks again for your time, man, and
Absolutely.
I'll be talking to you soon.
Easy. Everybody take it easy.
All right. Peace.
Bye-bye. See ya. Give me a holler.
Here we go.
I'm Jim from Chimaira, and I'm Mike. You're watching fucking fuck. I'm Jim. Hold on a minute. Okay. Alright. I'm Jim. I'm like Chimaira. I'm Mike. You're watching Domain Cleveland TV. Follow film, nigga. What's up, yo? Bye-bye. Okay. Ready? I'm Jim from Chimaira.
One more time.
Alright.
Yeah, the Jedi.
Ready?
Go.
I'm Jim. I'm from Chimaira. I'm Mike. You're watching Domain TV. Domain Cleveland TV. Alright. I'm Jim. I'm from Chimaira. I'm Mike. You're watching Domain Cleveland TV.